one of the things as I was sitting here pondering, wondering why a certain thing for this segment is I mean, like, see, like when I think of like, I guess just like fantasy in general, I usually see it as like starting points for a lot of like, I guess, authors slash would be authors. And like see, the thing about like fantasy is like it's a fantasy, you can like make it whatever you want, right? But I was kind of like wondering, and I was also thinking about our fabled first episode on tropes, was like, why is like, what, when you have so much breadth to make something and create a world, I was kind of wondering why people always fall back onto tropes when doing fantasy. So yeah, that was my question.
No, I
was pondering.
I do think it's good. If I had to give like a simplified answer up top, I think it's just because it's easy and it's proven. It's like if you get into a slump with your writing, insert trope here, and you know how these tropes are supposed to play out, or you might look like a genius for subverting the expectations of said trope. So it's just like a plug and play sort of element. Like like we're talking about setting up like a D&D game. Sometimes if I'm crunched for time and trying to put a session together, I might just go online and type in good D&D one shot and then just change all the flavored elements to fit in my own world, even if they are
nice
cliche.
Keep the spice, just change the meat.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, Jack, what do you think?
Honestly, man, yeah, I think it's weak. Like, make the character. Don't be especially if you're writing fantasy. I mean, like, there's just so much stuff to go for, so many things to make your own. There's no rules to it in any fashion. If you're doing like anything, I mean, not that comparing it to, but if you're doing like anything like somewhat historical to, like our world or whatever, like you have to kind of follow like a guideline. Fantasy, like there's no guideline. Like it's all just absolutely out there. It's up to your creativity. So it's sometimes it just feels, I mean, maybe it's also too when you're watching any type of show as well. I find when you have like a character that just kind of, they're just written to for the sake of being like something there. And I feel like maybe not on this topic, but just in general, like it sucks. You're just like, I don't like this character at all. Like,
yeah,
it's tough. It's tough sometimes. I mean, you see it like any type of fantasy. It's just something that always seems to play out. It is cool to be unique. It is cool, but sometimes it's just better just to tell the character story rather than trying to put it in a category. It's fun like that.
Yeah, and like also keep my background, the unkindled. Like
put that fire away, son. Auga.
I mean, yeah, because like I've kind of got back into the Dark Souls just because Elden Ring's coming up, maybe eventually.
You're gonna talk about the Elden Ring. I was getting pizzazz. I was like, here's finally somebody that gets me.
And then but like yeah, like one thing. So like my goal about a year ago was to like beat all the Dark Souls in a row, and then do like Bloodborne and then Sekiro, but then that just like never happened because that's just
Sekiro
started playing NHL, be a pro instead.
Yeah, he's got the
hours of season mode. Just
beating Gretzky's goal record.
Put Alexander Wenberg at like 60 points in 25 games. But
got Woodford 99 in the back, bro. He's playing for the boys.
Yeah. Anyways, Dark Souls, because like the intro is pretty much the same as with like at the start of all three of the games. It's you always have this unknown character that basically just has an objective, but it's like it's almost like a blueprint. But like, mind you, like I love it the way that Dark Souls, because it works. But same thing with like Elder Scrolls as well. Like there's always like this like starting point, but it's always just like consistently the same, which I always thought was like kind of strange. And like, to be honest, that's why I kind of liked Bloodborne and Sekiro, is just because it's a little bit more different. I mean, like Sekiro is much more narrative styled, but like it's kind of like the same for like a lot of fantasy series. And like video games that I've noticed, like that trend from a few years ago on video game characters, where there's always like a dude with a bald head on the cover.
He's got a
It's
bald
like-
head.
and like yeah, I don't know, that's what I always thought was kind of funny. Like it's kind of like hard to find fantasy that's like unique, and I think that's why I don't really like read as much, I guess, like unheard stuff, because like it's kind of like there's like I'm already expecting all these tropes and stuff like that. Like I guess like kind of like Wheel of Time with the first episode, it was kind of like telling the same story that we see all the time,
Yeah.
which is like kind of like to me a bit of a juxtaposition, like when you have a genre that's defined as being whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely like tropes I love that happen in fantasy. Like the ancient waiting evil. It's evil that we locked away forever, because it's sort of like
It comes out of the tomb. It comes out of the tomb.
yeah,
Like,
somebody broke
I
the
got
seal
mad.
and
Yeah. Oh my
flying.
God, the seal. It's locked away. There's 7 parts of it, but you got to put them together.
It's
And then you
a
open up the
Don't
door.
do it.
Over
Don't do it.
souls.
Oh, and all of a sudden, Indiana Jones.
Exactly.
And Indiana Jones is actually a girl. What's up?
Breaking the trope. But no, there are ones, wise old mentor, the Obi-Wan, Luke, Deckard, and Blade Runner type things. There's tropes I love, but I know what you're saying, that like it feels like fantasy doesn't need to go to tropes as often as it does, because it's like this is a genre that's built on being, fucking different for the sake of being different at points. But I will say, I think the fantasy I've enjoyed the most recently is actually books, because I feel like they have
Knowledge.
less risk in
Good
breaking
point, good
tropes,
point.
right? Like, when you're talking about like Elden Ring or any video game for that matter, like even like Dark Souls, like that first Dark Souls game is a risk, because like it's a fantasy game that's different from other fantasy games, and that it's fucking hard, and there's permadeath, and it's like, it's like a dark story, and like it doesn't really appeal to like, like the wider audience that might be more into like a whimsical fantasy a la like Zelda or like
You have
whatever
to be
the
a
case.
sadist to enjoy it.
Exactly. A sick masochist.
Oh, I died again. Oh, yes.
But
Kill
I feel
me
like
harder.
even like aesthetically, like I guess it's weird to say aesthetically when we talk about books, but like the world building in some books, Black Sun, another example, again, like pre-Columbian or colonial Southern American cultures, where it's like you never see that in like fantasy video games or movies, because it's like it's like almost a step too far for studios to take. Like they're worried that like it won't appeal. I think like that's the reason why like Black Panther was such like a monumental film, because it was like,
what a great point. That is a fucking good point.
like I feel like
that is super
it's
sick
risky.
point. I've never thought about it like that, because it is risky. And like, if you think about the risk, like not saying, I guess the levels of risk, right? But like, if it's something that's kind of like, I want to say like taboo, but like uncomfortable to talk about, and you bring that element into I guess like I want to say, is it a fantasy as well? That book you're just talking about?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay, that's super cool. That's like unique in its own genre. Like you're now like stepping into a place where it's, again, they're not token characters that you're putting
Right.
into the story to fit the narrative. Like that's something unique. And yeah, Black Panther as well. That is a really good example, because that movie was, when it was coming out, I wouldn't say there was like a lot of like hate towards it, but I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh, like they're just making this movie because like they need like to have representation, which is like true. But I guess like a lot of haters on it. But then you watch the movie and it's like some of the best arguably the best characters in the entire franchise.
Exactly.
Maybe,
Yeah.
In my opinion, like
Right.
the music. And like,
Mhm.
even going to Wakanda, bro, you're in Wakanda and you're like, damn, this place is sick as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
everything's flying. They got the fashion too, which is really, I love. That's my favorite part, was the whole, anyway, I'm not trying to take
I
over
like
that.
the text. No. But
Like,
that's the
the-
thing too, right? Is like when we think of like fantasy, the aesthetic is always like that European setting.
yeah, dude. I was like, dude, put me in a fucking, they had little the little robe on the top that did all these different colors to it. I was like, fire me in that, man. I want the sandals gang, bro. I
We
want
gotta
the
get that
sandals gang.
Photoshop going,
Dude.
Yeah, no, I think like, you know, when you see something like Black Panther, like even like just aesthetically, like the textiles and like the outfits they're wearing, like it immediately pulls you in because you're like, I've never seen anything like this. This is like so cool to see. And like when I think you like when you go back, sci-fi is a little bit different because like, but even sci-fi sometimes you run into like generic like aesthetics.
Oh,
where it's
sci-fi,
like,
100%, bro. 100%.
Yeah.
Sci-fi is the milk that just never seems to thirst everybody. You just kind of it's always the same shit, man. Which is fine. I mean, like I'm coming from fucking Warhammer. Like I'm such a huge Warhammer nerd. Like it's pretty much the same shit. But I will add, like, onto your point, I've recently started getting to this guy called Border Prince, and I highly recommend him. He does a lot of audiobooks on Spotify. Super cool stories. He's got a great like British voice that he throws around, does like a lot of stuff, but it's really cool because he does a lot of like that, a lot of like unknown stories. So like, because a lot like in this universe, there's a lot of like planets, and it's always like huge hulking guys like fighting each other. But then you start getting to like these like a villager who's in like a backwater planet that's like the Middle Ages. So it's just like technology's like not really there, and you just like have a person going through their like daily struggle. And they just had this one about a girl that was like really cool, and it's kind of weird, but it's like there's like people that can shapeshift. It's like an ability, and it's in the assassins for the Imperium, but they changed her into like a Tyranid, which is like, so they can like change into like a human form, but they made it so she changed like full race. And it was such a unique story because like the Gene Stealers are like these like cult that essentially is they work for like the Tyranids. They like get involved and they like plant seeds and they create these like cults, and they're like mutated kind of, they're like half human, half not. And they're like, when the Tyranids come, they're gonna like save us. They end up just eating them. So it's like hilarious. But you like it's super funny. So like they're gonna save us, and it's like, oh, praise the gods, and then some big ass bugs like Z. Yeah,
even that like as a subversion of like in a regular using that trope as like I don't even know what you would call that, but like you know waiting for like divine intervention, and then it comes and it's like the worst fucking
worst thing ever. It's like literally a bug that wants to turn you into like matter to like create more. That's it.
Even that like creates for a more interesting story, right? Because
like I think the story, like to go back to the subject though, but like the story of like a assassin, like this high-end female assassin that's like used to like being like changing to different people to like finish her objective, to now like trying to do like an espionage mission against like these weird like half alien half human cultists, and it's like wild. And I was like sitting here, it was literally happening to me like 2 days ago. I listened to it and I was like at work, and I was like, whoa, like this is like a whole different spectrum of the story. I've never been involved, and it's fun. And it's fun when you get sucked in like that, like going off like Black Panther, like any stories like that where you're like there's like a setting that you're used to, and then they just flip the whole table on you, because they do like a weird, because I wouldn't say it's as touchy as like I guess like the social atmosphere of like colonization and like like the Black Panther or whatever, but it was like pretty risky because usually like all the people want to hear is like Space Marines bopping people,
right?
Bam. I want to see like people just absolutely getting wrecked, and you get these little micro stories, and you're like, oh man, like
it's like a breath of fresh air almost.
100%. I think it's and like I guess like on the topic as well, like it's just fun to have that when you find stuff like that, and you can sit back and just, it's something completely new, but it's familiar. That's the key. I think it's something that's new, but it's familiar for you.
Yeah, but like that's like when I think of like subverting like fantasy tropes, I think of like The Witcher, especially like with The Witcher 3. The video was like just like the approach to like fantasy monsters as being like just like an animal, or like close, or like kind of like the in between, like some of them are sentient, but it's like they're a part of the ecology instead of being like this mythical creature. Like, oh yeah, here's this griffin, we have to kill it, it's like sent to fuck us up because of it been like shitty or something. But instead it's like, then you have like Geralt and like other witches are like, nah, it's just like an animal that we just are going to get paid to remove, but there's like this
Right.
like empirical scientific way to like deal with it instead of just use a magic sword or something.
Yeah, it's more like a story of exterminators in a fantasy setting, opposed to these, monster slayers that are like renowned. It's just like a job type of
Just
thing, right?
Ghostbusters, but fantasy.
Yeah, I even think like genre tropes, like something like The Witcher that takes like a more grimdark approach, where like you can tell that story is just like, yeah, I'm an exterminator. I carry a sword and cast magic spells.
And I'm
It's just
hotter than sin, buddy.
that too.
Okay,
Do you guys have like your least favorite tropes of all time?
Yes.
What are
let's
yours,
hear it.
Will?
Let's hear it, Will. Let's hear it, Will. Let's hear it.
The worst is I absolutely cannot stand just like the generic farm boy going off on a quest. That's probably my biggest one I dislike. Also, I'm
The
not the
hero's
biggest.
journey.
Yeah, just like in general, but also the one thing I always hate, and it's always the worst in movies, is like the one training scene that they have just like randomly in a campfire, and then like all of a sudden this chosen character can just like annihilate anyone. That
Yeah.
always bugs me.
Mary Sue characters and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hero's journey. That's those sort of combination pisses you off.
Kind of, yeah, but like mostly just because it's we've seen it so many times. So
Yeah.
broke me in other ways.
What about you, Jack?
Oh, I was literally trying to scan the data.
I'll stall for time here by saying some of mine.
Yeah, fire it
The
up.
one I fucking hate the most is Will, you've heard me talk about this before.
Oh yeah,
the-
big guys.
No, that's yours. Ancient love affairs. So yeah, like a vampire who falls in love with a teenage girl, or is like an ancient elf falls in love with it, or an immortal fucking being falls in love with like this fucking young woman or like girl in most cases. I fucking can't stand it. It's creepy as fuck. I hate modern stories who tell this. Like, I don't know how you're getting published. It's fucking weird. Stop it. Cut it
Twilight?
out. Cut the
Is
shit.
is that a shot at Twilight?
It could, yeah.
In our
Twilight,
unreleased,
yeah.
there's like a 45-minute rant by Matt about this.
They're totally
Unreleased.
yeah.
You gotta call Chris Hansen, bro. We want no 100-year-old man.
Chris Hansen of fantasy.
Yeah, I don't need. I
Hansen of
Chris
fantasy.
Handsome. I called you Chris Handsome. I came from man's movie.
No, I can't. I don't know. It creeps me out. I hate reading about it. You can never spin it in a sexy way. It's always gross. Fuck off. I don't care if they still look young. That makes it even weirder. There's a book called
Forbidden Love and illegal.
Super forbidden, legally forbidden. A book called A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, I think. A book that I loved halfway through, and when it gets to the halfway point, it gets like revealed that like it's all about like this weird love affair thing, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, just ruined like what was up until that point like a great book for me. And I can't stand it. I used to feel bad about saying that because I wasn't sure if they were a successful author, but they are very successful. So I'll just, have the hot take on it and say, fuck that shit. That's creepy and weird. But it is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So I don't know. But in Beauty and the Beast, he wasn't like ancient. He was just like a normal guy.
It's a little bestiality, it's spice it up.
Yeah, I guess that's weird too. Anyways.
Uncommon. Oh my god, you could do a little bestiality Twilight, man.
Subverting tropes.
I don't want to see you in your human form. Let's see you in your beast form.
Oh my god.
Oh, woof. I do have mine. I hate characters that are just like overpowered for the sake of overpowered. They don't show like any montage. They just like throw you in. It's kind of like Macho Man, where you're just like not Macho Man, not like Macho Man, but just like the overzealous, like, because you make the person that's like really like I'm not saying like not females aren't funny, but like it's a character that's just like written, or like a female character that's just like written, and it's like just not like it's not funny, or they're like trying to like overcome on something, and it's like you're not like fitting the bill. Same thing with like a macho guy. You're just like, yeah, I can shoot down anybody I need to be, and you just like no, there's no story of like how this guy is as good as you. Just like he is what he is, I guess. You can make the argument for a lot of 90s movies, but those are just classics. So
my biggest point too in that example is Goku, which I know I'll get vilified for.
That was
man,
also in our first episode.
Yeah, I literally did 45 minutes on why Dragon Ball Z sucks ass. Because
let those plebs, bro. Let those plebs come, man. Tell me about Goku.
I hate power levels that rise just for the sake of rising. Because if they don't rise, then there will be no stakes, right?
He's over 9,000.
If Goku doesn't fight somebody who's stronger than him, then he doesn't have to get stronger. So he has to get stronger to beat this guy. But now he's so strong that someone who's stronger than him has to come so he can do it again. And it's just like nothing's ever important. Like,
oh man, he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, Goku can like, every time he just fights, he just gets better and better. And he's
we
like,
have to stall time so Goku can come
Dr.
back.
Manhattan who can control atoms and like literally melt people. Like,
it's wild that Dr. Manhattan is a more interesting character than Goku. Like,
I mean, you get to see some blue cock, bro. That's different, man. You get to see some blue cock. You fool around.
Like you get no like character development,
bro. He's got an absolute rig on him.
Goku's been around for like fucking 40 years, dude. There's like zero character development.
Yeah,
you get like one fucking graphic novel of Dr. Manhattan. You're like, wow, this character's much better, even though it's like power levels. Like, at this point, Goku's
he's literally floating around Mars naked, ass cheeks out, building shit. Tell me what you building, Goku? Nothing.
Double cheeked out building.
Yeah, double cheeked out on a Tuesday afternoon.
Clockwork cities.
Yeah.
I will say though, my favorite character is Vegeta. I will say, I'm not that we're getting too into it. I love Vegeta. It's my boy.
But like Vegeta is almost just like a contrast to Goku, and like he's a dude who actually has a personality.
Yeah, like he has like motivation to be better.
He should be the main. I think he's the argument for the main character, man.
And like, there's a scene of Vegeta like freaking out on the god of destruction because he slapped his wife. And you're like, oh, that's progression. You didn't used to care about anyone. And Goku is always just like, I'm here to make shitty jokes and punch people. You're like, fuck, man.
Look at my veins.
Yeah.
Good soup.
Anyways, I think that about wraps up the show here for today.